All right, everybody. Welcome to the first coaching series session for the Chess with Patrick Journey to 2000 channel on YouTube. I know it's been a long time coming. Well, 2 years of 2 years of waiting for some formalized training is a long time, but I appreciate everyone's patience while I reach out to coaches who have offered their guidance and offered their services. It's been really great connecting with them and coordinating the sessions. Today, to kick it off with the very first session, I'm joined by a wonderful gentleman by the name of Dennis. And so, without further ado, I'm going to invite Dennis onto the screen here. Dennis, hi.
Hi, Patrick. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to get this going. I know we've been chatting on chess.com for a while, off and on over the last 2 years. I know we've even gotten a few games under our belt together, which I think you've won all three. So I think with that, why don't you go ahead and just maybe introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about your chess journey.
Yes, as you said, my name is Dennis, and I started playing chess maybe like 20 years ago. So when I was like 14, 15, maybe like that. And over the time, I just developed this passion for the game, and I stick to it, and I still enjoy playing it. And I, I, I I saw your channel when I was looking for like videos like Road to 2000 or something like that, like players who were around my strength, maybe a little bit stronger, and I wanted to see how do they play, how do they improve. And so I found your channel and I found it interesting, and I stick to it, and I really like your consistency and how long you're following your journey and playing chess every day. And I think you really deserve to get some help now to make the next step.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear how folks are stumbling across my channel, and I have zero expectation that people watch every day, but it is kind of cool to see how people tune in for one video. They can go away for a while and then come back and check on how I'm doing. And now I'm hoping that now I'm formalizing the learning that when people do come back and check on how's Patrick doing, they'll see a different number than what they might be expecting. So with that, tell us, so you're 2100 on chess.com. Tell us a little bit about kind of your rating and your climb to get to where you are.
Yes, yeah, I'm around 2100 on chess.com. My FIDE rating is 19, about 1900. So I'm on my own journey to 2000.
2000 FIDE, yeah.
And on FIDE rating, yes, exactly. And yeah, I'm still playing tournaments. I think I had a huge progress when in the first years I started playing chess. So when I was here in my teenage age, but I also still improved considerably during the adult time. And I think it's a little bit different if you want to improve when you're a young kid or when you're an adult. And so I think I might offer some help how to improve when you're not a kid anymore, because kids have it much easier to learn all that,
Yeah.
and to improve.
Yeah, the kids are lucky; they don't have the mental baggage that comes with being an adult. That probably interferes with a lot of absorption of the content and the early
Yes.
formations of those brain connections. But nonetheless, here I am. So why don't you Why don't you tell us what the agenda is for this coaching session, and then we can dive right in.
Yes, I wanted to do three things basically. One thing, I want to analyze some of your games with you. Maybe not the whole games, but look at some important moments.
Okay.
Then I want to tell you how do I look at the position? How do I look at the position to avoid blunders, some mistakes, and also how you can find tactics and all that stuff. So, like, how can you avoid your main mistakes? So, number one and number two will be kind of mixed up. We will do these 2 points together,
Okay.
and then at the end, I prepared some tactics for you because the things we discuss will also help you find tactics in your own games, so we can put that into practice at the end. And
That sounds good.
if you have some questions at the end, you're free to ask them. We can make a little outro. But if you have questions during our analysis, you can ask anytime. Feel free to ask.
Sounds good. I am ready. And I apologize in advance if there's any loud noises or anything. There's still a bit of construction going on at the house, but yeah, where would you like to start, Dennis?
Yeah, so the first game I want to look at with you is the game against Yo-Yo Chess, where you played with the black pieces. And yeah, you played this e5 move, which, yeah, maybe not, I'm not the biggest fan of that opening choice,
Yeah.
but I don't think this is the main reason why you lost this game or why you lose games. So we will focus on the main weaknesses, in my eyes, in your game. So there was e3, you developed your knight, white played knight c3, and you played bishop b4 here. And when I look at a position like that, or any position, what I do is collecting informations. What I mean by that is I first check what is attacked, what is protected, and how often. So I try to find out if there's a problem or something promising for me. So in that case, when white went knight c3, I would check, okay, what is this knight attacking? Like this pawn.
Mm-hmm.
You see the arrow?
Yep.
And this pawn is attacking, and you only have one defender.
Right.
So there's one problem. What else? This pawn attacks this pawn, and it's defended once. Okay. Now you also have to see what are you attacking. You're attacking this pawn that is defended, and you're attacking this pawn. Let's make it red. 1, 2 times. But also, your queen is pointing at this pawn.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
So you have like 3 attackers here.
Mm-hmm.
And you have like 2 defenders. So this is something that would,
So when I look at the number of attackers, I should also look to see what might be hidden behind something that's not a direct attacker.
It's very important to see through the pieces. Also that the white queen, for example, is pointing at your pawn on d5.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important. And then when I collected all these informations, sometimes the moves come up from themselves. Like, okay, I have an idea now. I know where I have to look. So here, if I have 3 attackers on that pawn and just 2 defenders, I could think about taking here this pawn. Like when I take here and he would take, then I can win a pawn here. If it's a good decision to win that pawn, that's another question. This has to be calculated, but at least you have the option. And when you look at the engine, it says, well, after queen e2, probably white position is completely equal, so white has some compensation for the pawn. But, first you have to see that you can win a pawn, and then you can decide if it's a good decision to do it. Also, it's a little bit more complicated because black, as you see, could play d5, some in-between move. I don't want to get too deep into these variations, but just as a start, so how I try to collect all these informations and then come up with my move.
Yeah.
So let's get on. Bishop b4. Your opponent took on e5. And here you traded your bishop for the knight. I saw that you do that quite often in your games. And you should be careful with that, because giving up the bishop pair can be a huge concession, especially when the position opens up. Then the two bishops can be very powerful, and we see that in that game, that white's two bishops are really annoying. So I go on, you took here, you played bishop e6, which is fine, defending the d5 pawn. There was this trade of queens, and here he went c4, and you went bishop e6. And here your opponent took a lot of time, like you see on the time screen, like 40 seconds to play bishop d2. When your opponent is thinking about his move, you can check where are your pieces pointing at, like collecting this information. So here I would look at my bishop. Okay, it attacks this pawn, is protected by this pawn. Okay, what is my knight doing? What squares does the knight attack? And then I see, okay, there's an unprotected pawn here. Yeah. So what I would expect is a move, a developing move that protects the knight, like knight f3 or bishop b2. And also the engine suggests these moves. But knight f3 is probably fine.
Right.
I think your opponent was afraid of bishop b4, of knight b4 here, because if he plays something like bishop b2 and you go here, you see there's this fork. If he moves the rook, then this pawn is unprotected. So I think he didn't miss that because he took his time. He just wanted to
Defend
make sure
against the b4 knight move,
that he has the b4 square covered. And now, since your opponent fought for 40 seconds, it should be like, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to take this pawn because I'm attacking it. And now you do this move, you check if there's any threat. No, there's no threat, and then you take. And you develop your knight. You see?
Yeah.
You did not take this pawn. And I think you maybe missed it, that you attacked this pawn. And this square control, to see the square control, it is a very basic skill, but it's very important in chess. And in this game, you see that you and your opponent, don't do that consistently. So you miss very easy moves because you don't see all the squares. And this is something you have to train. Like, okay, if I want to look at a piece and I want to see the squares that this piece is attacking, is covering. Because that's the information you need to choose or to find good moves.
Yeah.
If you only have half of the informations, what is going on the board, then how can you find a good move? How can you make a good decision, right?
Right.
So now white played knight f3.
To defend the
Of course,
pawn.
protecting the pawn.
Yeah.
You castled. Bishop e2. When he plays bishop e2, I look, where is it pointing? Now here. Okay, there's nothing here. But if there was a piece, like an unprotected piece, you have to consider, okay, well, if this knight moves, the bishop attacks it. So you look at the pieces like there is nothing in the way. Like this bishop has this diagonal. Not yet because the pawn is there, but if it moves, then it covers these squares. And so I'm like constantly checking where are my pieces, where are the opponent pieces, what squares are safe, and and then work with these informations. We will see some more examples. So now you play knight g6, you're attacking this pawn, and now your opponent does the same as you did. He just follows his own agenda, but he does not consider the concrete position. So here he just castled in like 2 seconds. But what he had to do is to say, okay, you moved your knight. What are you attacking? Okay, you're attacking this pawn 2 times with both knights. It's defended only once. So I need to make a move, or probably should make a move that defends this
Bishop
this pawn.
c3.
Yeah. If you look at the engine, maybe you can even turn off the engine. We don't know. We don't really need it now.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably a good move, the engine suggested it, is bishop c3. So like by collecting these informations and describing the problem, you kind of know what move you are looking for, what you want to do. You know, this sounds very basic. It is basic. It's basic. But yeah, it's very important to do that. So bishop c3 was logical move just to defend that pawn, because white don't want to lose this pawn. So he castled, and now it's your chance to simply take this pawn when the position is equal again. But you developed your rook. See?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good move in general, but you missed that you can just take this pawn.
Yeah.
Now bishop c3.
Yeah.
You bring your rook into the game. I like that. White brings his rook into the game. There was bishop g4. He attacked your bishop. You traded. And now you took on e5. I want to talk a little bit about that position. And now I want you to tell me, to collect these informations. Tell me what is attacked, what is protected, how often, do you have any unprotected pieces or pawns that could be a problem? And then we think about a move.
Yeah. I see this pawn is being attacked 3 times. I see the rook being attacked once. On their side, I see my knight being attacked, but then also this pawn over here would be undefended if this knight moved.
Right.
And if they take my rook, I would take back. Yeah, that's what I see. I think knowing that I made this move, this pawn is probably the big one to really consider.
Right, exactly. So with this, it's
but either
okay,
way though, so if I take here and they take back,
that's already a good start, because now you see, okay, there's a pawn on b7 that is unprotected, so maybe you want to start to take with the other knight.
Right.
You see, now your moves, your thought process is much more like more to the point, because you consider some important factors in the position.
Yeah, you get rid of the ones that don't make sense.
Exactly, right. So yes, let's say you play knight g takes e5. Now let's see. White, we have to see what white can do now. He could capture your knight with the bishop, right?
Yeah.
But let's try to make it in the head. We make it like a little bit of calculation training. So please go back to before you took on e5.
Okay.
We try to make it like when you play the game.
Yep.
So knight takes e5, bishop takes e5.
Yep.
Right? So now you have 2 pieces that you can take the bishop with, but you know already you don't really want to take with the c6 knight.
Yep.
If it's not, because you don't want to lose the b7 pawn, right?
Yep.
So you could take with the rook. Okay? So now look at the position when after you took the bishop with the rook.
Yeah.
And look, where are the white pieces pointing? What is attacked, what is protected? Can you see the position?
I can. If I take with this knight and they take back, if I take with this knight, the same thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So if I take with the rook, they can take with check. I'm forced to take back here, and then they still get it.
Look what squares your knight is covering after taking back on d8.
Yeah.
It's protected, right?
Yeah. The b7 square would be protected at that point.
Would be protected, but let's go to the position again. When after your rook took on e5,
mm-hmm.
the white rook is attacking your rook on d8, right?
Yep.
And the only defender is your knight on c6.
So they would take this first. Yes,
and now your rook is unprotected. If you take the bishop, you get checkmated.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
So if I take here, they take back. I take with the rook, and then they get rid of this knight. Then I would be forced to capture this.
Okay, yeah.
They take back.
Yeah.
And then I could take this.
And now? White to move. Your rook is on e5.
Yeah, my rook's on e5. Then they'd have
Then they have rook d8, yeah.
Yeah, then they'd have mate.
than they have mate. Exactly. So this variation doesn't work in, you can play this variation. Yeah, white just wins material here.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, even in calculate when you calculate lines, you need to see what is attacked, what is defended.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, to see it in the variations, you first have to be able to see it in the given position in front of you, because it's even more difficult to see that during the calculations. But it's very important because otherwise you just miss important parts.
And it
So
all,
in fact,
to me,
yeah,
like, I'm sorry, I think it all really starts with after they make a move, looking at what that piece can do and starting from there.
right. This is very important. It's like first you collect these informations, you see where the problems could be in your position. And of course, it's the same with the position of your opponent, see where there could be some problems. And then you try to come up with something that, yeah, how you try to make something out of these informations. So here, in fact, you can't win the pawn on e5 without giving the pawn on b7, because as you tried, if you take with the g6 knight, and then with your rook, you have a problem. So basically
Yep.
here you have to give up the b7 pawn if you want to get the e5 pawn. But it was still better to take with this knight, because first of all, white has to see this sequence. Maybe he just he doesn't take on e5 with his bishop, then you're fine. And even if he does, so now because we saw rook takes e5 does not work. If you now take here, at least you get rid of the bishop pair. White at least had to give up one of his bishops. Because maybe in the game you thought like, okay, you can take here. Okay, he might take here, but you get the c4 pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this was your reasoning. The problem is, like this pawn is an isolated pawn. It's rather weak. And this pawn is not isolated, but it's doubled. Yes, it's a little bit annoying. It's a center pawn. But these are not the strongest pawn, let's say it like that. Whereas you have three connected pawns. You have a very good pawn chain here.
Yeah.
And when you lose the b7 pawn, you have two isolated pawns.
Yeah, I
So you
think
have
if we did that and they take and then I took back,
this is
I
how the
guess
game went.
I think my thinking was this would be a pass pawn at that point.
It is, but a pass pawn can be something good, can be an asset in your position, but it can also be a weakness. And that greatly depends on the pieces. If you have active pieces, if you can assist a pass pawn, it might be great. But if your opponent has the more active pieces, then it's more of a liability
Got it.
having this
Hey
pawn.
Dennis, this is awesome. I think we have 1 minute left on this session. Let's
Yeah,
take a little break, and then would it make sense to go on to the next game, or is there more on this game that you wanted to cover?
there's a little bit more.
Okay.
How long was our session now?
I don't actually know. I think it was only 30 minutes, so they must have shortened the free tier time.
No,
So I think in 10 minutes we'll get another 30 minutes. So let's take a quick break, and then we can come right back here and pick up where we left off.
okay.
All right, see you soon.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize. When making this coaching video with Dennis, I experienced a technical snafu with the screen recording for the next hour's worth of content that I was hoping to get. Not a complete loss, because Dennis had really good advice for my chess game, and I hope to implement that starting immediately. But unfortunately, it means none of y'all get to see it. Yeah, it's such a bummer. I definitely want to say thank you to Dennis. Obviously, him going out of his way to offer up his time to help, I'm extremely grateful. And I hope you all liked the content that you did see. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out, and it can't go back. We'll see if we can get Dennis to come back, but I know I've also got some other stuff lined up for the coaching sessions, so only thing to do now is just move forward and try not to make the same mistakes again. Easier said than done, as evident by my chess game. Okay, I'll see you next time.